for part 2 of the beginner's guide to the 6 best side hustles. That was terrible. All right, so let's talk about poker. The thing that I really like about poker is that it combines my love for money with my love of games or competition. And if I could play video games professionally, I'm just going to take this off right here. If I could play video games professionally, I probably would, but I'm just not good enough. And in order to be competitive in video games, you probably have to be in the top 1% or so. But the beautiful thing about poker is that in order to make a living in poker, you only have to be in the top maybe 10% or so. So in fact, I ended up quitting my job before the pandemic hit in order to pursue poker professionally. And my parents still don't know. So if you're watching, Mom, surprise. But the difficult thing about poker is that it's hard to determine how good you are or how much you're going to make any given year or so. And I estimate that if I were to play poker professionally and play consistently and study consistently, I would probably make somewhere between it's like 25,000 on the low end and 150,000 on the high end. So the gap there is huge, obviously. So I obviously want to quit my job if I didn't think that I could make money towards the high end of that spectrum. But poker is definitely not for the faint of heart, but it can be a great side hustle. So let me talk about some of the benefits of using poker as a side hustle. One of the benefits of playing poker as a side hustle is that it's fun and it's social. And I think it's important to have fun during your side hustle because the more fun your side hustle is, the more likely you are to do it. And you're also the more likely you are to be good at it or to get better at it. And for me, I'm just like naturally a lazy person. It might not seem like it in my videos, but I just am. It's just so much easier to do a side hustle because it doesn't feel like work for a lazy person like me. I know there's things out there like I see like advertisements for other side hustles like Shopify dropship, Amazon FBA, or real estate wholesaling, but those things just sound terrible to me. I mean, you have to be good at those things too. You have to be, in the top 10% as well. And if you're not just having fun doing it, it's hard to be in the top 10%. And the other benefit about playing poker as a side hustle is that it doesn't take much to learn. It doesn't take much money to learn. You can start a weekly or monthly game with your friends for a $5 buy-in even. Just so that you guys can learn the game. And after learning the game and getting good at it, you can scale all the way up to $1,000 or $2,000 buy-ins. And as long as you're good enough, you can be profitable. After about a $2,000 buy-in or so, it becomes more difficult to be profitable at poker because at that point, in general, you're playing against people who are in the top 10% of poker players. But poker is scalable from $5 up to about $2,000. But you only need to play at the $5 level in order to learn the game. And in fact, the reason why I got started in poker in the first place in high school was that it was just an inexpensive way to hang out with your friends and have fun. Even if you're a losing player, the money that you would have spent going out to eat or going to the movies or going bowling those things would have cost more than how much you would have lost playing in a $5 buy-in. So what do you need in order to get started with poker as a side hustle? The first thing is obvious. You need to know the game and understand how to play. And the next thing is that you have to live near a casino. So you have to live near a casino because you're going to be playing live poker. Yes, you could play online poker and do online poker as a side hustle, and you can live anywhere you want, but that's just not my expertise. So, and that's just not what we're going to cover. The next thing is that you have to have some startup money. You have to have at least $1,000 in order to get started as a side hustle. You don't need $1,000 in order to learn the game, but in order to get started and for it to be a profitable side hustle, you need at least $1,000. And lastly, you have to enjoy the game because yes, poker can be fun at times, but a lot of the time is going to be boring, and it should be very boring most of the time if you're playing correctly. And you also need to enjoy the game because poker can be a huge bitch. You will win, but you also will lose, and sometimes you will lose many times in a row. So in order to get through the long losing sessions, you have to enjoy the game. And what's going to happen if you don't enjoy the game is that you're going to go through a streak of losing sessions, and that's just going to make you want to quit. So what are my tips in order to be successful as a poker side hustler? I have 8 tips, and let's get started. Tip number 1 is to have a job and live below your means. So what do I mean by this? Have a job, that's pretty obvious, but to live below your means, that's a little bit vague. So for me to get specific, even before you start playing poker, you have to be able to do a couple of things. Number 1 is if your employer offers a 401k match, you have to contribute at least the match to your employer's 401k. Number 2, you have to have no credit card debt. Number 3, you have to be able to contribute the maximum to your Roth IRA. And then you have to still have money left over, and the money left over after that you can use towards poker. So why am I talking about all these things that have nothing to do with poker and everything to do with living below your means and investing? That is because a huge part of poker is about fear, and specifically about the fear of losing money. So what you're doing by doing all these things outside of poker is that you're taking steps in order to reduce your fear of losing money, because there's going to be times where you have to pull a big bluff or make a big call. And if you're afraid to lose money, you won't be able to make the best decisions. Tip number 2 is practice with low stakes games. So you can organize a weekly game or a monthly game with your friends, or you can find low stakes games with meetup groups on a website called meetup.com, and I'll put a link in the description below. So like I said in the beginning, these low stakes games are a great way to learn the game. But if you already have a good grasp on the game, and even if you've played for years, they're a great place to just practice new concepts that you learned and just keep your skills sharp. Tip number 3 is to sign up for a training site. So after you get a good understanding of the game and a good understanding of the flow of the game, the next thing you want to do is to sign up for a training site. And you could actually learn the game cheaper through books, but what I found is that the concepts in poker are better taught through a video format than through books. And that's just my opinion, but for me, that's just how I learned. So a site that I would recommend is upswingpoker.com. And they have courses, or they have a monthly subscription, and they offer some discounts if you do like a 6-month subscription or a 1-year subscription. I would do a 6-month subscription. It would take you maybe 2 or 3 months to get through all the content. So a 6-month subscription will allow you to get through all the content with some buffer time. Tip number 4 is to have the right tools. And what I mean by this is that firstly, I think you should have software that you could practice against, just like how you would practice against a computer in a video game. Pokersnowie is a software that you can play poker against. And the strategy that Pokersnowie uses is it what it does is that it plays poker against itself with trillions of hands until it comes up with a strategy that is most profitable against a wide variety of opponents. So what Pokersnowie does is that it's basically you're basically practicing against a very formidable opponent. And not only can you practice, Pokersnowie will also tell you its strategy on how it would play certain hands over other hands. So it's also a great learning tool. And the next thing you should get is something called Flopzilla. And I won't get into too much detail of what Flopzilla is because it's going to require a good amount of poker knowledge in order to understand what Flopzilla does. But essentially, it's just a calculator that is geared specifically for poker. Tip number 5 is to play at the best times at the best tables. So after you have a good amount of low stakes games under your belt and you've gone through the upswing course and you have the tools, now you're ready to go to a casino. And I wouldn't go to a casino just at any times. I would go during the best times when there are a lot of tables and the most amount of bad players are out. And these would be on Friday and Saturday nights. And Sundays are also pretty good, but they're not as good. And Friday, Saturday nights, meaning between 5 p.m. and 1 a.m. And after you go to the casino a couple times, you'll start to see familiar faces and you'll start to recognize who are good players and who are bad players. So what you should do is simply just play at the same tables as the bad players and try to avoid the good players. Tip number 6 is to move up through the stakes. So when you first get started at a casino, the lowest stake you can probably play at Hold'em No Limit is 1-2. So this means that the small blind is $1 and the big blind is $2. So I would try to win at least 1,000 big blinds before moving up to the next stake level. So at $1, $2, I would try to win at least $2,000 before moving up to the next stake level, which is 2-3. At 2-3, I would win at least $3,000 before moving up to the next stake level, which is 2-5. And you can do this all the way up until about 5-10, where I would just stay at 5-10 because anyone that plays above 5-10 is going to be probably a pretty good player, in the top 10% of poker players in the world. So just so you have a good idea of how long it would take to move up through each stake, I would say if you play once a week, it would take at least a month to move up through each stake, and it could take up to a year. So it can take many years to move up to 5-10. So just wanted to let you know that this is not a get rich quick type of thing where you can just put in maybe a month of work and then move up to 5-10 and make 100K a year. It's more like, it's going to take a lot of work. Tip number 7 is be comfortable taking losses. And I talked about this already in the beginning, but just to give you an idea of the losses you can expect, the swings you can expect, is that it wouldn't be uncommon to lose 500 big blinds in one session. So to give you an example, if you're playing 1-2, and let's say you play 5 sessions, and in each session you win 100 big blinds, meaning you win $200. At the end of the 5 sessions, you would have won 500 big blinds or $1,000. So on the 6th session, you have a terrible session and you lose 500 big blinds. That is actually not very uncommon. And the way that you can kind of be comfortable taking losses is, like I said in tip number 1, is that you should have a job and you should live below your means. And the next thing you could do to be comfortable with taking losses is that you just have to get used to it. There's kind of no other way around it. When I lost $1,000, when I first lost $1,000, I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. I was depressed for 2 days. And now I can lose $1,000 and it's pretty normal. I've lost $4,000 before, and even though it does hurt, I recognize that it's normal. Even if you're a great player, even great players, they lose 4 out of 10 times. You only have to win, 51% of the time, theoretically, in order to be a good player, in order to be a profitable player. Tip number 8 is don't play when you are emotional. And this is also known as managing tilt, because losing sucks. And when you lose in the beginning, it's just going to affect your decision making. It just will. And you have to kind of learn how to lose. You have to learn how to walk away when you're losing, or learn to walk away when you're emotional. And like I said, you tend to get emotional when you lose. So if you lose a big hand or you have a string of bad luck, just in the beginning, just get up and leave and just play a different day. Once you get better at managing your tilt, what you can do is you just get up from the table, take a couple walks around, clear your mind, and then come back and play. That's what I've done in the beginning. And now that I'm better at managing tilt, I can take a big loss and just sit at the table for a little bit and just like kind of get over it while I'm still sitting down at the table. But that's not something you should be able to do in the beginning. So that's number 8, manage your tilt. Tip number 9 is to continue to get better. There's always something to learn. And even after you go through the upswing course, for example, there's always going to be more to learn. And the game is always evolving. So if you don't evolve with the game, then people are going to overtake you and you're not going to be making as much. So you should prioritize learning over making money so that you can make money in the long term. And the way that you should think about learning is similar to how you should think about personal finance. You should listen to as many people as possible, but you should kind of listen to them and then come up with your own way of thinking so that you can kind of disregard what you don't agree with and take in what you do agree with. All right, so to recap, tip number 1 is to live below your means. Tip number 2 is to practice at low stakes games. Tip number 3 is sign up for a training site. Tip number 4 is to make sure you have the right tools. Tip number 5 is to play at the best tables, at the best time, at the best tables. Tip number 6 is move up through the stakes. Tip number 7 is be comfortable with taking losses. Tip number 8 is don't play when you are emotional or manage your tilt. And tip number 9 is to continue to learn. And I will see you at the tables. We've been to Vegas probably about 20 times ever since turning 21. And throughout those 20 times, I've learned a lot about how to save a ton of money while vacationing there. And I was deciding on what to call this section, and I eventually settled on beating Vegas. So what the hell do I mean by beating Vegas? Beating Vegas is essentially taking advantage of the unique characteristics of Las Vegas in order to either make money or save money while vacationing there. So what I mean by this is that Vegas is a city based on tourism, and the companies there, mainly the casinos, they have to spend a lot of money on promotions in order to attract tourists. And also, the casinos bank on the fact that most people are bad gamblers. So we could take advantage of these characteristics in order to essentially beat Vegas. I was also debating on whether or not I should even include this as a side hustle because it's so specific to one city and it's not all about making money. It is about making money, but it's also about getting free things like hotel rooms, free food, and entertainment. But since the time that you put in will yield pretty good value, and even though at times it will feel a bit like work, it's still a pretty fun way to spend your time in Vegas. So, especially if you plan to go to Las Vegas on vacation anyways, this side hustle can save you hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, depending on how far you're willing to take it. So, what are the requirements in order to get started on this side hustle? Well, first off, you'll have to invest around $200 in order to get started, and you'll need to have a Las Vegas vacation coming up. Give yourself at least 3 months in order to get properly set up. You'll need at least one day out of your vacation dedicated towards this side hustle. And it will also help if you live within driving distance from Las Vegas, but that's technically not a requirement. A lot of the concepts that I'll introduce will be helpful even if you don't live within driving distance. And the benefit to this side hustle is a free vacation, or at least a cheap one. Whenever we go to Vegas now, we still pay full price for some things. But in combination with all the things that we do in order to save money, we basically get to have like a 4-star, 4.5-star vacation on a 2-star budget. So let's go over some of the tips that I have in order to be successful at this side hustle. Tip number 1, take advantage of the MyVegas family of apps. MyVegas refers to a family of gaming apps created by MGM that consists of slots and table games. These games are completely free. The way that MGM makes money on these apps is by selling chips. But as long as you just use the chips that are given to you by just logging on, you don't have to buy any additional chips. You can play for free. So the more that you play, the more gold coins that you get. These coins can be used to spend on real items, including hotel rooms, food, gambling, free play, and show tickets. The apps are called MyVegas, MyVegas Blackjack, and MyKonami. There's also a Facebook app called MyVegas. What's nice about these apps is that they hook up to the same MyVegas account. And all you have to do is log on to each app once a day and collect your chips and coins. It shouldn't take more than 10 minutes per day. And once in a while, you can play some of the slot games. It's a bit of a time suck if you want to actively play and watch the slots. So I would recommend that you just put a slot on auto spin and just walk away from your phone or computer. By doing these things, you should be able to get 50,000 gold coins per month, which is enough to get a free night at MGM Grand. There's a lot more that I can talk about in terms of strategy, but I don't want this video to get too long. So if you want to know more, just comment below so I know that's something that you want to learn more about. Tip number 2 is attend a timeshare presentation. I know this is a weird one, but as long as you don't have a problem saying no to salespeople, attending a timeshare presentation can be well worth it. You can sign up through salespeople near the entrance of some casinos, and I know that Luxor and Excalibur have some of these salespeople. I've also signed up through Hilton when a representative called me, but I believe that you can also call them in order to sign up. I'll put a number that I found in the description below. You'll also have to meet some requirements. There may be an age requirement, income requirement, and you'll also have to go as a couple. They'll ask for a deposit, something like $99 or so, but in exchange for going through a presentation, they'll give you a 2 or 3 night stay. They'll also give you your deposit back in the form of something of equal value like show tickets or free play. Once you get to the presentation, you'll have to be able to say no to salespeople multiple times. To me, that's really easy, but I know for some people it's not so easy. So some of the things that I say is that I'm just here for the free stuff, or we have a 0% chance of buying something. I'll also say things like, I almost never vacation, so this is just not worth it to me. So depending on who you get as a salesperson, they may let you out right away, or they may put you in front of a senior salesperson, in which case you'll have to say no a couple more times. Worst case, this will take 3 hours. But for a 3 nights free stay, that's well worth it in my opinion. Tip number 3 is make money through gambling promotions. So there's a couple ways you can do this. But one way you could do this is simply by signing up for a casino's Players Club card. Usually, when you sign up for a casino's Players Club card, they'll give you something like $5, $10, or sometimes $20 just as a small thank you for signing up with them. So what we used to do when we were new to going to Vegas for vacationing is that me and Teresa would go from casino to casino, just signing up for the casino's Players Club card and playing through the free play. By doing this alone, we would make something like $100 per person per day. And sometimes, just by exploring like this, we would come across random casino promotions. Like, for example, the sports book would give you $50 free play to sign up for their mobile betting app. And like Circus Circus would have a blackjack promotion where if you gave them $60 in cash, they would give you $90 in chips. So the key in this strategy is to not feel obligated to keep playing just because the casino gave you a promotion. So just take the promotion, play through the promotion, and leave. The next thing you could do is purchase coupon books. Coupon books have good discounts on dining and entertainment, but what makes them worth purchasing are their gambling coupons. There are two coupon books that you can purchase, and the two coupon books are called The American Casino Guide and The Las Vegas Advisor. The American Casino Guide has a coupons only edition that costs $11. The Las Vegas Advisor is $37. If you use all the gambling coupons in both books, then the American Casino Guide is worth over $100 and the Las Vegas Advisor is worth over $200. Also, a lot of the coupons can stack on top of each other. Like if both books have the same coupon at the same casino, they will let you redeem both coupons. And if you are traveling with your significant other, you can each use one American Casino Guide and one Las Vegas Advisor. So with about a $50 investment each, you guys can net around $250 each. Some tips here is to understand how much each coupon is worth. A match play coupon using blackjack is worth about 50% of its match play amount. So a $25 match play is worth roughly $12.50. A free play coupon, depending on what slot you use it on, is worth about 80% of its coupon value if you play a penny slot, and can be worth up to 99% of its coupon value if you play video poker and you understand the strategy behind video poker. And like I mentioned before, on the MyVegas app, you could trade in your coins for gambling free play or match play. You can add these coupons to your other collection of coupons. I would recommend that you plan ahead so you know which casinos you want to hit up and in which order, and you also know what coupon you're going to use at each casino. That way you don't have to figure it out while you're there. Tip number 4 is to take advantage of the free attractions. Vegas has some of the greatest free attractions in the world, and here's a list of my favorite free attractions. Some of them are well known and some of them are not very well known. Number 1, the Bellagio Fountain Show. Number 2, the Bellagio Botanical Garden. Number 3, the flamingos at the Flamingo Hotel Wildlife Habitat. Number 4, the volcano at the Mirage. Number 5, the 7 Magic Mountains. Number 6, the fire-breathing praying mantis at the entrance of downtown Container Park. And number 7, Akhob by James Turrell. So a little bit about that last one. Akhob is an art exhibit that is located on the top floor of the city center Louis Vuitton. And the only way to view that art exhibit is through a private viewing. The private viewings are free, but you'll have to call the Louis Vuitton store in order to get a time slot. I'll put their number in the description below, but you'll have to call them ahead of time, at least 2 weeks ahead of time, in order to get a time slot. Bonus tip. Use your credit card perks. If you've seen part 1 to my guide on side hustling and you followed my tips on credit card churning, then you could use some of the benefits that you gain through credit card churning in Vegas. For example, if you have an American Express Platinum card, that will give you access to Marriott Gold status. You can use your Marriott Gold status to get an upgrade at Cosmopolitan when it's available. Also, if you have an IHG credit card, that will give you access to IHG Platinum, which then you can tier match to Wyndham Diamond. You can then take Wyndham Diamond and tier match that to Caesars Diamond. And Caesars Diamond has a lot of benefits. Some of them include a $100 food credit, a buffet line pass, free valet parking, and a 4 nights free stay at Atlantis, Bahamas. So as a way to recap, Here is an example of how a Las Vegas vacation could look like. You and your partner show up to Las Vegas, where the first thing you do is go on a pre-arranged timeshare presentation where you had put down $99 as a deposit. After saying no many, many times, 3 hours later, you end up back in your free hotel room, now with a voucher to dinner and show. Armed with your 2 American casino guides and your Las Vegas advisors, which you had spent about $100 total on, you and your partner hit up 10 casinos where you didn't have the best of luck, but your luck was also not terrible. You win back your initial $100 and you make $150 on top of that. It's dinner time, so you decide to go to Bacchanal Buffet at Caesar's Palace. Armed with your diamond card, you park at Valet for free, you skip the buffet line, and you use your $100 dining credit. The next day, you hit up another 10 casinos where your luck was about average again, and you end up winning another $300. You're now up $450 total. You have dinner and see a show with the vouchers that you've earned through the timeshare company. And the next day, you hit up all the free attractions and you eat cheap food with the coupons from MyVegas, from the Las Vegas Advisor, and from the American Casino Guide. You and your significant other also each earned a free hotel room through the MyVegas app. So after checking out of your free hotel room that you've earned through the timeshare company, you check into another hotel room where you spend the next 2 nights for free. You now have the next 2 nights to enjoy the rest of the free activities and spend the money that you've earned through casino hopping. So that's my beginner's guide to the 6 best side hustles. If you have any questions or if you want any additional details about any of the side hustles I mentioned previously, comment below. I just have one parting question for you guys. Has anyone noticed anything weird about the thumbnails for part 1 and part 2? There is something weird, so if you figured it out, comment below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.